What's up, everyone? Welcome to Level 7. It's time for another episode of the Agents of Fandom podcast. I'm your host, TJ Zwarych, ready to talk about The Last of Us Season 2, Episode 4. Joining me, as per usual, for our Last of Us shows, we got Metalcore Nerd, Sean Mott. How you doing, Sean?
Doing great. Nothing like a Monday post The Last of Us. Sit here and talk about, the sadness, the trauma. But this one, we get a little bit some hope, some nice moments. So that's cool. I'm excited to talk about that. I'm excited to talk about the nice moments, the proverbial calm before the storm, I guess. But happy to be here as always.
If Mondays already weren't tough and dreary enough, The Last of Us on a Sunday night, just bringing your we always talk about it. It's great television that just takes your mood down and lower. It's not really an upbeat show, or as Rich talked about last week, an upbeat playing experience when you're playing the game. But we put ourselves through it nonetheless, and we have our therapy sessions every Monday with all of you listening to help us get through it. Joining us today, we had a little bit of an idea after we had Rich on the podcast last week. I talked about how I produce a podcast with that he's helps host, Talking Fantasy Football, and at the end we have a movie review at the end of every week. And one of the people who hops in, whose job I stole because he used to produce the show, and now but he still joins us for the movie portion, co-host of the Hometown Ghost Stories podcast. We got Rob Coakley. How you doing, Rob?
I am doing great. I like that you decided to have Rich on last week and you were like, how do we go up from here? And you were like, obviously, I need to bring Rob in for better analysis, better episode, all around better everything. But I do love Rich. Reeves is the man.
It's great to have you back on the show, because this is The Last of Us is a perfect one to do it with, because not only it's fun when we bring you in for the Marvel stuff and things like that, but by trade you are a horror guy, and so The Last of Us, it's a nice one to tag you in for. Who give us the listeners a little bit of a background on Hometown Ghost Stories and your whole horror, like what made you fall in love with the genre?
All right, we'll work our way backwards. We'll start with how I started watching horror. The way that you should not start watching horror. I was 4 years old, I believe. The first movie I ever saw was Killer Clowns from Outer Space, and that absolutely terrified me, but I loved the feeling because I'm a psychopath, maybe. I don't know. But I have a lifelong fear of clowns now. That got compounded by Tim Curry's Pennywise. So just a really rough time to grow up and watch horror movies if you to have a clown, what is it? Clownophobia. That's what I'm going to call it, because it's terrifying. I used to know the name. It's like agoraphobia, or I don't know, something. Somebody will yell at me in the comments, but that's how I started with horror. And I love pretty much all different types of horror movies. Give me your slashers, give me your slow paced methodical, give me Sinners, as you talked about last week, one of my favorite movies of the year by far. Give me all of it, and I'll probably either really love it or really hate it. As you know, TJ, when it comes to my movies, it's usually not too far in between with me.
And usually, if I love a movie, there's a good chance Rob hated it as well. But
it makes good TV when we do the shows together. And just real quickly, Hometown Ghost Stories is a show that I do every week, as you mentioned, where we cover one town somewhere, generally in the USA, but we expand it to the world sometimes. And we talk about all of the hauntings within that world. We do like a little 15-minute pre-produced section. We're part of the Bloody Disgusting Network, so we're with horror guys there. And we even do like little side episodes where we review horror movies, which I'm going to have you on at some point in the future, TJ, to do a horror movie with us on that as well. So if you're into ghosts and ghost stories, check out Hometown Ghost Stories.
I've never been a big fan of horror stuff, but weirdly enough, this year, You can find a review of Thunderbolts up on the Agents Fandom YouTube page and wherever you get your pods. But that's my number 2 movie of the year so far. Sinners is one movie with some, not like full-on horror movie, but horror aspects. And number 3 is Companion, another movie with some horror aspects in it. Those are my 3 favorite movies of 2025 so far, and 2 of them have some horror vibes to it. So maybe I'm turning a little bit of a corner, just kind of inching my way in the door, not fully kicking the door down. Shout out to Bex in chat, says coulrophobia is the phobia of clowns. Bex has the same phobia as well, so they were ready for it. Let's start talking about, or no, before we even start talking about The Last of Us, I want to know what you're watching, whether it's TV, it's movies, even listening to a new music, reading a new comic, whatever it may be. I want to know what you guys have been watching, listening to, etc. For me, nothing much new since, the last week. I guess since our Last of Us pod, I've been watching a lot. I watched Companion was one of the movies that I saw and I absolutely loved. I saw One of Them Days, which I thought was just fine. Black Bag, which I didn't enjoy as much as I hoped I would. I had heard really good things about Black Bag, so I wanted a little bit more. Watched a Working Man, Jason Statham movie that goes about exactly as how you would expect it to go. But just last night, because I hadn't seen Simple Favor and I wanted to watch another Simple Favor, I watched A Simple Favor for the first time, went in totally blind, knew absolutely nothing. And what a wild fucking movie. It just gets more and more outlandish as you go. I actually really enjoyed it. It was filled with twists and turns, which I'm a big fan of a movie where I don't know what's going to happen next. And that movie was just kind of filled with it. I actually had a lot of fun. I'm excited to see another Simple Favor. Anna Kendrick and Blake Lively, Henry Golding. I enjoyed it quite a bit. Sean, what you been watching?
Man, A Simple Favor rocks. That movie rules. As far as I'm watching, I mean, obviously I saw Thunderbolts this weekend, or I'm not going to say the new title, but there's a new title already, which I think is a genius move on Marvel. If you've gone to the Marvel social media, it's already there. So if you haven't seen Thunderbolts, I would stay off social media. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. It's the internet. Normal people were spoiling it on Thursday anyway. That's why when it's premiere night, I'm off the internet. I'm gone.
13 days before the movie came out.
I know. Somehow I did not see any of that stuff, so I was very, very happy. I was very, very, very happy. But I really, really enjoyed that movie. Obviously, cheap plug. I got a few articles and the interview with the director Jake Schreier on the Agents of Fandom YouTube and the site. He was super, super nice. I mean, I only talked to him for like 4 minutes, but like just the way he spoke back to me, it was so like kind and like thankful. It's probably because he comes from such indie backgrounds and everything like that. Look at there you go. It's just a great movie. Like it's a lot about mental health, and it's been really cool to see the internet be positive about Marvel and the future of Marvel. That's been really nice to see. I feel like there's been glimmers of positivity since Endgame, but I feel like we're on like a really positive trajectory for that stuff, especially with the post-credit scene of the Thunderbolts and who directed that post-credit scene. I think everyone's on the same page and onward and upward for the MCU. Because if you think about it, next 4 movies: Fantastic Four, Avengers Doomsday, Spider-Man Brand New Day, Avengers Secret Wars. That's a crazy lineup. That's crazy. And I don't know.
Great Young Avengers movie slipped in there somewhere.
I mean, we'll see. I would be shocked if they somehow hid a Young Avengers Champions project somehow, but I would be impressed. But we'll see. We'll see if that happens. Other than that, what else have I been watching? Oh, Everybody's Live with John Mulaney. John Mulaney's talk show on Netflix. It's fantastic. I love it so much. It's so great. It's like a normal talk show, except they do a topic every single episode, and the topic's usually super weird. And then they have famous people on. They talk about the topic. They bring in callers. It's great. It's just really, really fun. If you're a John Mulaney fan, if you like kind of just like weird, out of pocket, random humor, watch it. He has an episode where they talk about how he thinks dinosaurs in museums are built wrong. It's great. It's good stuff. And then I just started watching, because I totally forgot it came out yesterday. Tales of the Underworld, the new Star Wars shorts.
Oh, I forgot it did too.
Dude, I totally forgot.
That's what we probably should have had a review for up on the website and on the podcast too. But I for some reason they never sent out screeners for that one, at least to me, and so we never ended up doing anything. But we should probably even have it of Tales of the Underworld episode of the podcast.
I've only watched 1.5 episodes. But the first episode, as you've seen, they've done this is the 3rd year in a row they've done this. They drop it, and it's 6 short, super short episodes. They're animated, all Dave Filoni, and this one follows, half of it follows Asajj Ventress, which if you're a Clone Wars fan, you know Asajj Ventress obviously has like a storied history in the books, everything like that. And then the second half's Cad Bane, which again was in Clone Wars, Bad Batch, and then we saw live action in the Book of Boba Fett. So I haven't got to the Cad Bane stuff. I guess I'm like, look at that. Hell yeah. Love me some Cad Bane. But even the first episode with Asajj Ventress is so rad. I was like, the opening scene, I was like, yo, this is so sick. Because there was, when Asajj debuted, came back in Bad Batch, a lot of people were upset over a book that was apparently canon. All I will say is that the opening of this show keeps that canonically thing that people thought was broken. They fixed it within this, or if that was always the plan, I don't know. Who knows? Regardless, they fixed it. So, all you book nerds can be happy, I guess. But very, very cool thing to see. And I'm excited to see where it goes, because I really have no idea where it's going at all, because I did not think it would go off like this. And some of these have been like cool. Some of them have been like the last year's Tales of the Empire. The one I thought was going to be super sick was really underwhelming to me. And the one that I thought was going to be cool was cool. So it's kind of a toss up. It's hard with things when it's such short form. It's like, how long are the episodes? They're like seriously less than 20 minutes long, and you get 3 of them per character. So it's not a lot of content, but so far the Asajj one is killing it. And I'm so stoked to see where it goes. And give me more Cad Bane. Like I'll never say no to Cad Bane. He's such a cool character and so mysterious. So I don't even care what his story is. If I get to watch him for a little less than an hour, I'm down. But I'm glad I wasn't the only one who forgot that it came out. Because I totally blanked as well. Randomly today, I was like, oh yeah, I forgot that's out. Maybe I should watch it. So yeah, working on that. But that's the majority of things,
Also, totally didn't realize that the new season of Poker Face is only a few days away, and I'm very excited for that one as well, the Natasha Lyonne show. Rob, how about you? What you've been watching?
Well, I hate to say it, but I have never been able to get into Star Wars. I don't hate the franchise or anything. It's just one of those things I've tried to get into, and I've tried to get into so many times. It's not for me personally, but no hate towards Star Wars. I've been watching a lot of documentaries and explorations on the Villisca Axe Murder House, the Sally House, and Malvern Manor, because in less than 2 weeks, I am taking a trip to investigate all those places. So making sure that I have everything down pat for that has been sort of taking most of my time over, as well as the show. For personal watching, I've been trying to slowly get through the Black Mirror episodes. Since that dropped, I've gotten through, I think 5. I think I have 1 left, which is their USS Callister sequel. So I got to get through that one. I haven't got there yet. So that is my next one. Yeah, other than that, it's Ghosts, football, and that's about it for me. I unfortunately do not have the time, because I am either writing or editing when I am having any sort of a free moment.
Excited to hear your thoughts about Thunderbolts when you get a chance to see it. But the people are here for our thoughts, not on Thunderbolts, but on The Last of Us. And so let's start diving in. We are about over halfway through the season now. And I guess over halfway through the series now.
Yeah, maybe.
So we are halfway through season 2 here.
Yeah.
Rob, what's your The Last of Us origin story? Did you play the game first? When did you play it? And what have you thought of season 2 so far?
Yeah, so I played both of the games. Obviously, some of my favorite games that are out there, definitely top 5 for me if we were to rank them, and probably not 5, not 1, but not 5. I think Red Dead 2 is always going to be number 1 for me.
Fair.
Yeah, and BioShock is usually circling around number 2, but I love these games. I played the first one a little bit later after it came out, and I managed to not see any spoilers and play part 2 like a year after it came out. So still got the full experience for that. Yeah, I knew that I didn't want to see what happened, and I was able to not get anything spoiled for me. So it's a hell of an experience playing through that game. You just don't want to put the controller down. And my overall thoughts of the series up to this episode is just thank you for, doing justice to a great story and a great game overall. We see people take video game stories and basically just use the title and just change the entire, like, maybe not the concept, but change the entire continuity, the entire story of the show. And I think that they've done such a great job just in terms of the story, never mind the visuals, the acting, or anything of that magnitude, which is all phenomenal. But they've managed to incorporate the story into a watchable version for people that have not experienced the game, and throw little things in for people that have played the game to give them a little nod, but change things just enough to make it even a little bit fresh. Mostly for good. There's a few things that I'm still on the fence about, but that's good overall. I want to be on the fence. I don't want to be, like sitting here knowing every little thing that's going to happen. So I am happy about that as well.
Yeah, we've talked about that a lot over the past couple weeks of this is an adaptation. It is not a one-for-one retelling. And I feel like so many of the critiques I've seen online, critiquing and criticism, it's film criticism that's good, right? But I've seen a lot of the critiques just being like, this is different. That's bad. Oh, like different doesn't mean bad. Let them tell the story and see where they go with it. And if there's a crucial aspect of the story or a character that you feel is missing and that takes away from the character, that's one thing. But just because it's different doesn't mean it's bad. And so same page with you on that one, Rob. Full spoilers now for season 2, episode 4. Let's dive into it. Sean, what do you think of episode 4?
So at first when I watched it, I kind of had this feeling of like, that's all they did in the episode. And then the more I thought about it, I was like, wow, they really did a lot in this episode. And I think I kept thinking about it because they did change a few things within this episode from the game that it's not like I was like, oh, that sucks. I was like, I don't know. I think I was caught off guard by it. And it took me a while to like let it really sink in. And I actually like some of the changes they made, especially in the Ellie and Dina dynamic, that I think, because it's hard because at this point in the game compared to the series, part 2 as a whole is a lot more cold. The game is like very dire, and I'm not saying the series isn't, but comparatively, the game is a lot more dire and just like pent on revenge. And there is some like nice moments here and there in the game too, but it feels a little more nuanced than the game. And I'm thinking that's probably, I mean, Neil is a very smart guy, and obviously he's collaborating with Craig Mazin, but I think a lot of these changes might have come from Craig. I have been listening to the podcast, companion podcast, where it's Neil, Craig, and then Troy Baker hosts it, the guy who voiced Joel in the video game. And that's been a cool insight to kind of hear their thought process. And they do a really good job of not going ahead. And like, if you're just a casual viewer who wants to listen to this podcast, because they promote it on HBO, so I'm sure a lot of people go and listen to it, they do a very good job of not going ahead and spoiling anything. Like, even with the big Joel thing, they were not teasing that in episode 1 or anything like that. So it's like they toe a very fine line, and they do a very good job at it. It's just cool to hear their like insight in the moments and why they change this and etc. It's very insightful to me, at least. And I don't know, just like this version of Ellie is, it's not and I think I said this last week, is that I'm trying to view these as totally different experiences, because they are. You can compare the two, of course, but like TJ said, it's like, if they change something, I don't see that as a bad thing, because if you're mad about that, just go play the game. I don't get that. I again agree with TJ. I don't think it's a critique. It's just like a weird complaint. Like, I just don't get it. Why would you want to watch the same thing done over again? Like, all the main story beats are there. They're just kind of changing the in between, really, or kind of getting to a place faster or differently or anything like that. But the more I thought about this episode, I was just like, man, this is like a really beautiful episode of TV. I think the one thing that held me back of, oh, maybe they're not doing enough in this episode, is that I know there's only 3 episodes after this. So I'm like, is everything else going to feel kind of rushed? Because this episode took its time, just like episode 3 did. And I've been really appreciating how much time they've taken, rather than kind of like rushing through everything. I like that we're like spending time to flesh these characters out more, to see more of the things. And the production design of Seattle is absolutely insane. I cannot understate how incredible it looks. And I can only imagine how Neil Druckmann must feel to make that happen in live action. I know some of it is VFX, but a lot of it is practical, and they build it. Again, they do great behind the scene documentary stuff, even for the game, but I know they did a big one for the show, and seeing what they handle VFX versus practical is insane. You're actually almost surprised, like, what's VFX and what's practical. It's crazy. But overall, it's like really great episode, and just another insanely strong season of TV so far. And obviously, knowing the game, like I know what's coming, and I'm excited to see how they handle that, especially with this like different version of Ellie. I kind of like how the size of her, you kind of see how dangerous and like the stakes of things, like, even though she's probably not going to die, but like, it's hard when you can't just respawn. So it's like you feel the danger in like every kind of different altercation. Especially, dude, that subway scene was so sick. And there's so many more infected than there are in the game. I was like, Jesus, this is insane. Just to see this, they must have taken that note from people saying there was enough infected in season 1. They're like, every time we get infected, it's going to be like 1 million of them. And good for them, because it feels like so overbearing. It's just like swarms and swarms of them, and they're really taking advantage of what they set up in season 1 with the whole hive mind thing. Like, I really, really like what they're doing with it in season 2. Like, they set up a good kind of thing to have to carry on. And I feel like it's really paying dividends in this season, because every time you see those little tendrils, you're like, shit, we are absolutely cooked. So overall, really, really strong episode after 2 like pretty incredible episodes of TV. Excited for the rest, I guess.
Rob, what are your thoughts on season 4? How have you liked the storytelling style so far, where we get the additional like perspective from Abby right at the beginning of the season, and then since then we don't actually see near as much of her as we do in the game?
Yeah, see, so you're starting me off. I was ready to give this show all the flowers, and you're starting off with the one thing that I am on the fence about. I am willing to let it play out to see how they do it. It's not a negative for me yet, but that is the one story beat that they've changed that I think could be bad overall for the show. I think that intrigue of why did she do that? Because like in the game, you clearly know that she knows who this is. This is a calculated hit, basically, but you don't know the reasoning. So you guys kind of hit on it last week with Rich, where I was just sitting there shaking my head yes as I was listening, where in the game, not knowing gives you just such this anger and hatred towards her. And then everything that comes afterwards sort of flips that on its head. And I don't know if they're going to be able to flip that on its head enough because you already know why, but you're still pissed off that she did it. And is she going to be able to hit some of the beats later that make you change your mind now? And I give them credit because they've done so well in the past with stuff that I hope that they find a way to do that. But I think I think they've set themselves up for that to be a little bit tougher. But this is also a television show, and you have to sort of give more breadcrumbs in a television show than you do in a video game. You're given more time in a video game to let things breathe. For example, Seattle is a great perspective on this, where one of the things I loved about Seattle in the game was when you first get there and you're sort of exploring all these different buildings that, like, we see the record shop, but I mean, there's the bank that you go into, and there's like this whole little sub story that you see in there. And I'm okay that they left that out because that really does feel more like a game thing more than anything. How do you incorporate that into the TV show? But they sort of know where to draw that line a lot of the time. So I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt on that. As far as Seattle goes, you hit it right on the head, Sean. It is beautiful. And that is one thing that this show does time and time again. The settings in this show have been phenomenal. They nail the aesthetic that you want, the feeling, the look, just about every single time. I only have one negative I have two negatives for the episode overall, and they're like the most minute, nitpicky things that there could be. One is there was one scene where there was lens flare, and I've been noticing that more in shows lately or in movies where they're allowing this little bit of lens flare, and I don't like it because it kind of takes me out of the show a little bit, for the most part. And my only other nitpick, I'll just get it out of the way now. The scene where they're at the tank it starts off as a great scene, but when she drops the top of the tank, it makes the noise. Dina just standing in the middle, sort of circling around for being the smartest character that we have right now. That is the dumbest thing anyone has done in the show so far. And I love the interpretation of Dina. I think that is one thing that I am shocked about with the show, because I'll be honest, I was indifferent to her in the game. I didn't hate her, but I wasn't like connected to her in a way that I would have liked to have been. Boy, did this show change that. They are killing it with that character, and they show that again in this episode. And I'll just sort of leave it as a teaser. Bringing in Isaac in this episode is already 100 times more interesting than he was in the game.
Jeffrey Wright's portrayal in this episode, like alone, and of course we're going to see a lot more Isaac in the future, absolutely incredible, like just terrorizing. And like, so I love how last week we got our first look at the scars, and it's just that nomadic family members going for a walk, right? And they got some scars on their face and some questionable aspects of what they're doing maybe, but for the most part, it just looks like a group of people, like a family, right? And we later see that the wolves have absolutely slaughtered them. This week, we get our first introduction to the wolves, and later on, we see a few of them absolutely strung up by the scars, just like some real heinous, disgusting stuff. And so I think it's so interesting how they kind of do like the mini version of what they do with the Abby and Joel. You know, the whole Joel was the hero through the whole first season, but then you see at the beginning of the second season, in Abby's eyes, he's the villain, right? And we get to see at this point of the story how they are not just stepping into the middle of, like, there's one group that they got to worry about. They are stepping into the middle of a full-blown war in Seattle, and both of these sides will have absolutely no qualms with just send them to the next realm with no questions asked, no thoughts about it. Sean, what did you think of the introduction to the Wolves here? We get Jeffrey Wright as Isaac, and we get Josh Peck popping into the intro to the episode.
Peck.
What you doing there, Josh Peck?
Dude, when Josh Peck showed up my TV screen in The Last of Us, I was like, get out of here. There's no way this is real.
That
and then, of course, he's like,
that felt very much like Jason Sudeikis punching Grogu in The Mandalorian.
Yes, that is very that's a great comparison. And I was like, wow, he's such a dick in this. Interesting. And I didn't know how the scene was gonna go. And then until Jeffrey Wright comes in as Isaac, and I was like, oh, okay, cool. And it was so cool to see already way more building blocks of Isaac than you get in the game. I mean, Isaac's like barely in the game. He's talked about quite a lot, but he's not really in the game at all. So to already get introduced to this, I'm wondering kind of how casual people viewed it as, because in our viewing, like the Seraphite stuff, like, is it confusing for them? For us, it's easier. We have context. We have full context of who these characters are. So we're like, oh, okay, that's cool. So I'm interested on that, because I don't know. I don't know how people are feeling on it. Maybe it's a little easier because Jeffrey Wright's kind of a more known face name to people, and they're like, oh, he's interesting, and there's that connection between the wolves. And it's funny, even though you see the Seraphites, strung up the wolves, it's almost like a yes thing, and kind of adding to what like Rob said about the whole Abby thing. Like if it's going to work, I think what they're doing is they're making the wolves seem way more evil in, like, as a whole, seem more evil in the show than they did the game. In the game, it's kind of just like, they're an obstacle between, they want the few, if there's some collateral damage, whatever, but they're not seen as this like evil force in the game, really. They're just kind of your adversaries by default. But in the show, and they're making the Seraphites, even though you've seen them do some messed up stuff, like string people up and disembowel them, you're still kind of like, yeah, they should have done that. It's very interesting how they've made them more sympathetic, and I think I know why. For what comes in kind of Abby's arc, I think it's going to make that more impactful. And so I'm like thinking, as they're building these things, I'm like, this is kind of interesting and smart to make the one side seem more evil, even though it's a war. There's no good or bad side. They're both just doing terrible things in the hopes of winning. But even that conversation or interrogation with Isaac and that one Seraphite was so interesting. And to have him be like, you're going to lose. And he's like, how are we going to lose? He's like, you guys have nothing. We have power. We have hospitals. Like, you're done. And he's like, yeah, but every day some people leave you guys to come to us. No one's leaving us. And I was like, wow, that is such an interesting thing that I can't really remember if that was something in the game, but the only thing I really remember is Abby and Owen not being as hateful towards them as everyone else, kind of having more of a
all their hate
more
so
nuanced
tough.
approach.
All going towards Joel. They don't got any left.
Yeah. So it's very interesting how they're playing this, but I love, and obviously Jeffrey Wright voiced Isaac in the game, so it's cool to see him reprise this role and bring almost and he's a pretty scary guy in the game too, but to start off already with showing him terrifying. And the thing is I think that makes it more terrifying is he's not doing this out of some sadistic nature. It's all tactical. And I think that makes it scarier, because it's maybe not even that he wants to do it. He's just like, in his mind, he's probably like, I need to do this. And that's like more terrifying, that, he's whatever it takes. Like, I'm going to win this war. And it was cool to see that he was a Fedra officer, is like, because that's really the only thing we knew from the game of the origins of the wolves, is that they took over Fedra. There was like a war between Fedra and the wolves won. So again, cool to see more backstory, and I'm hoping we get more of that going on. I'm guessing yes, since yesterday or last week showed some Seraphite stuff. This one showed a little bit of both, but more focus on the wolves. So really, really dig that stuff. Stoked to see more Isaac. Really, really stoked to see more Isaac. Jeffrey Wright, what a gem.
He's just such a good actor. Like he is so damn intimidating in this. He can be charming and funny so easily. He can play awkward and like cold very, very well. He's just such a strong actor. I'm very happy he's reprising his role in this. We do get some Abby references. We do know that her and her team are kind of like part of this crew, but have not seen them, did not get to see her in this episode at all. Rob, what did you think of the intro to the WLF and Jeffrey Wright's Isaac?
Well, I want to push back a little bit on what Sean said, where he said that it doesn't feel like he necessarily wants to do this. And I would say we don't know that yet for sure, but I just think it's more about, it's not about whether he wants to or doesn't want to. It's about he's capable, right? That is what it comes down to. And that's what his speech is about, right? Like where he's talking about the pans, which I think is the best scene this season, is the scene of the interrogation and him talking about the pans and how these were the pans that he always wanted. He was capable of using these. And like, that's like the whole thing with him. He's capable of doing it. And once he has the tools to do it, he will do it because he is capable. So it's not about wanting to or not wanting to. It's about, I can do this, so I will do this type of thing. And that's who he is. And it's really important that his performance is good, because this could be where this show falters going forward with this particular character, because he is being set up for something that wasn't set up before. Like you guys said, they are setting up a big bad, right? Which we just didn't really have in the game as much. So they are trying to set something up to divert your hate right now, is what I think they're doing with this whole character, right? So that's the difference. And it's great because it's Jeffrey Wright. He's getting to expand upon a role that he's already played and he's already made it better. But this could be a fumbling point for them in the future if it's not handled properly. I have full faith that they'll handle it right, but setting up a big bad could be too tropey for what I would want to see this show do going forward. So it's another one of those things that they're sort of, juggling right now, that I'm like, okay, there's another ball in the rotation. Let's hope that they don't drop it. And I'm excited to see what they do with it. But these are the things that they needed to do to keep the show fresh that could make it better, which I think it is an enhancement so far, but we got to see the full thing play out.
It's weird because as you're saying that makes me more excited for what's coming, because I think it'll make what happens between him and Abby, I think it's going to make it like even more impactful.
Right.
So what you said just made me more excited for it, because I'm like really excited to see how Jeffrey Wright personally handles that as an actor, because like you said, it's like,
but you need him, right? Like you need it, like not
necessarily
Jeffrey Wright, but like a guy like Jeffrey Wright. Like I think they got the right person. But if you had the wrong guy playing this role, like if they hammed it up too much or something, you would just be like, dude, come on, what are we doing here?
Apologies if you can hear my dogs barking in the distance, but I want to get to the Ellie and Dina of it all this episode, because that really was, it's funny, we're 40 minutes in and we're just now getting to that point, but really we get the important WLF introduction at the beginning of this episode, but this is Ellie and Dina's endgame episode, this is the episode that reveals this is the couple and the new Ellie, and not the same dynamic as Ellie and Joel, but it firmly supplants them as the two main protagonists that we are going to be cheering for and hopeful of going forward. And it's like you said earlier, Rob, we've been singing her praises all season. Isabella Merced has just been incredible as Dina. Like the performance is just, it makes you gravitate towards her while you're watching. Like it just makes it's just such a lovable and a character that you really want to cheer for and hope for. And it's a bit of a different arc than, or not arc, same arc, but a different process of how we get to the end point of this episode between Ellie and Dina. Like you said, we get the subway scene still, There's a whole lot of zombies, and instead of Ellie's mask breaking and some spores getting in, she full on protects Dina. She sticks her arm out and she gets bit to hold Dina off. Dina, the entire time after that, as they're escaping, is just like, you can see the shock and disappointment and fear on her face as Ellie's trying to get them out of there. And Dina's just like, no. Like, she knows it's over. She thinks it's all over. And we get this intense scene between the two of them where I know Dina's not about to shoot Ellie, and I'm still fearful that Dina is about to shoot Ellie. That eventually leads to Ellie revealing that she is immune. Dina holds a gun on her all night long. She wakes up hours later. The bite hasn't changed, and she finally believes her. What does she then do? She reveals her big secret, that she is pregnant. We have seen the signs throughout. Game players already knew, but we saw the signs throughout with Dina throwing up, etc., throughout this season. She reveals it to Ellie that she's pregnant. And let's stop there for now. Sean, what did you think of the chase, the bite, the fight leading to the big reveal of Dina's pregnant?
This is one of the changes I was talking about that I honestly really, really loved. Yeah, like you were saying in the game, both reveals are spread out a little bit more. They're not kind of intertwined like the series is. And I thought they said they were bringing back spores this season. Maybe that comes in later. What could happen with the Norris stuff? I'll leave it at that for non-game players. I think maybe it'll come into play with that for sure. But they haven't really done the spore things. And anytime you go into a spore-infected area, the characters would put on gas masks and that would protect them. And Ellie did it just to hide her immunity from people because, not many people know this. And hers gets cracked, and then it's not as intense as the series made it way more intense. She just kind of says I'm immune, and it's kind of just over. It's kind of really all it took, just like one sentence, and is done. But how they handled this with her just being like so heartbroken that, and like how when they had that conversation, she's like, I thought my future was gone, and I was like, oh my god, that is so heartbreaking. And you could just see the pain in her eyes, like I have to kill the person I love. Like brutal, so brutal. And I love that when she finally gets the relief of knowing that, like, oh, she really is immune, holy shit, that she reveals her secret, and that's kind of what bonds them. And I thought that was so beautiful, because in the game, when she reveals that she's pregnant, Ellie kind of gets pissed. Eventually she comes around to it, kind of like the next day, but it's a way different reaction. And to see Bella Ramsey with this incredible performance that they continue to pull off week in and week out. And I love the line, I'm gonna be a dad. Like, I thought that's
one of my favorite parts of the episode, where she's just like, I'm gonna be a dad. And it just gave so many good memes throughout the internet just in the last 24 hours of like, Ellie, I'm not the dad. I'm not the stepdad. I'm the dad that stepped up. And it just like, there's so many great parts with that.
My favorite one was the clip, and it was like Pedro Pascal every time he accepts a role. And I was like, that's good. I was like, that's really good. I'm going to be a dad. But yeah, I thought, like, I really loved this change. And most of the changes I've liked, but like, I feel like this just enhanced their dynamic. And even before, because a lot of people were complaining last week, and we talked about this last week, about how there wasn't the scene with them in Eugene's, like pot den, where they hook up and smoke weed, and people were mad when Dina was like, you're gay, I'm not gay. And then it's like, everyone chill, wait to see what happens, and then judge it. And of course, this episode addresses it, and she talks about how her mom was like, no, you like boys. And it was like, that was a part of her past trauma with her parents. And it's like, everyone needs to chill out, okay? And wait to see how the story goes, and then you can critique it after. Like what Rob is doing very perfectly. He's like, this may be a problem. I have confidence that it won't be a problem. Just wait and see how it goes, because now everyone is like, they made Dina straight. It's like, now you just look like idiots. every single one of you. Like, what are you talking about? So it was just like, it was beautiful. And the take on me scene, I have one big compliment and then one minor complaint, because it's a big complaint with music in media in general,
Better
because
not
I play
complain.
music,
It was perfect.
so I
It
notice
was
these
perfect.
things.
Any complaint is wrong. It was perfect.
Until I bring up what I'm about to say, and then you'll most likely agree with me. But that scene was amazing. Bella Ramsey sounded incredible, and that scene made me cry too. As like Isabella Merced's crying, I'm crying. It has even more weight because they used the song in the Riley episode in the show. Like, I heard this at my friends did like the secret show in their practice space on Saturday night, and after they were done playing, they played just the normal Take on Me, and I was like, oh yeah, this song's so fun. And then the reality of The Last of Us hit me, and I was like, this song is so sad every time I hear it. But by one problem, when she's playing guitar, it's obviously a recording of the guitar, and she fakes like she's playing the guitar. The chord, I'm pretty sure the chord she's holding with her hands, with the on the fret hands, is correct. But her plucking fingers, she was doing way less plucking than was actually being played. That's my one complaint. I get really upset when there's music performances and they show it and it's very wrong. And the fact that it was like halfway there, that makes me a little bit more upset. And they did do some good blocking later on of not showing her picking hand, which I'm guessing was probably very much on purpose, because even when they show you how they do it in the game, Ashley Johnson's doing mocap with like a big white guitar that they obviously transfer, but when they do the actual playing part, they have a guitarist play it, and that's why they get the perfect finger movements and everything, because they have someone who do it. Even when Stranger Things, when Eddie Munson was playing Metallica, they had someone else play the solo. I believe he learned and actually played the actual riffs, which respect. But that's my one tiny complaint, because that's what bothers me. And that's it. Otherwise, incredibly beautiful scene that I hopefully did not ruin for all of you by pointing that out.
And optional in the game, which is wild. Like,
crazy.
You can actually miss that in the game, which is a bit crazy.
If Sean didn't ruin it for you with his critique, then we'll let Carlos ruin it for you with his comments in the YouTube chat. What's up, YouTube? Smash the like button if you're watching us over there. Hit the like button, subscribe, hit the notification bell, subscribe to the Agents of Fandom wherever you get your podcasts, and follow us on socials at Agents Fandom on TikTok and Twitter, Agents of Fandom everywhere else. I don't really know why the scene made me cry. Like, I can't pinpoint the feeling that I had. It was literally just like all of my emotions were coming to the surface and I couldn't control it.
It's the double meaning of the song, right? Because the song, it means one thing with Ellie and Joel, but it means something else with Ellie and Dina. So when you're thinking through the song, that song has a double meaning based on how you think through it, is what I would say.
Regardless, it just hit really, really damn hard. Rob, what did you think of song through danger, right through pregnancy reveal?
So, I mean, there's not much to add to the song scene at this point. It's a great scene. Letting Bella Ramsey, because she's not going to touch Ashley Johnson in that respect. Anything musical, of course, is never going to sound as good as Ashley Johnson, because she just kills it every time. But letting Bella do like her own rendition of it, it's similar but different enough. Mm-hmm. And each plays to the way they play the character. So I like that. If we go to the subway scene, though, that is phenomenal. Like, just the sheer terror of that scene. And I see why they make the change with the spores. It's just so hard to show that on TV. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like, sure. Like, can you? Sure. But it's not overly impactful. So, as you guys brought up from the last episode, that scene where they're in the tent talking about the kiss and it was a 6 and, like, I'm not gay and all of that, that's what makes this scene play harder, because as they're leaving, and she gets stuck, when she doesn't know that she can't get infected, for Bella to put her hand out and take that bite, no matter what Dina thinks that she knows, Bella feels about her, that's the nail in the coffin, right? That shows that she actually loves her for no other words. She was willing, in her mind, she was willing to die for her, but Dina would have died for Bella as well, as we can tell from the acting of this scene. So that makes the bite that much more impactful because you see it. She sees the bite. She sees that she did it for her. It is a great change from the game to the series for sure. I mean, if I'm going to nitpick anything on this, if I remember correctly, and please correct me if I'm wrong on this, she doesn't show her previous bite until the next morning. And I feel like that's something that if you're trying to convince her that you're not going to turn, one of the first things you do is keep your gun on me. I'm going to show you a previous bite. Let me show you that I am immune to this, rather than waiting until you sleep all night. So maybe I would have shown her that. Again, small nitpick, but
I just don't know if it would have really she still would have had to do a big explanation because there's no bite left on her arm. It's just she burnt it off and then covered it with a tattoo. So it would just be a bunch of dead skin with a tattoo on it. But still, you could be this is where it happened the first time and give an explanation, yeah. But the visual wouldn't have really changed any mind.
Yeah. I think you could still see it a little bit in there though. That's the thing is she was showing it, you could still see a little remnant of the bite. So I'm not saying that Dina would have just put her gun down, oh, well, that's all settled. But as a human being,
yeah, for sure.
Your brain be wait a minute, I've been bit before. I'm gonna show you this bite mark that I had before. I burnt it, and you're just be saying some, gibberish as you're trying to show her. But that would be where most of our minds would go to start.
Or maybe showed her stomach, even though she cut it. I don't know if it would show the bite anymore because she cut it so the bite wouldn't show.
Right.
But maybe she could have been I cut this, just make it seem like a bite, but it's a bite. But again, it could seem both could have seemed like a desperate thing in the way they presented the whole altercation, where she's just wouldn't have believed her anyway. But I do think that's how she convinced her. She's I was bit here before or something, I burned it or whatever. I do think you're right. She showed that the initial bite first. For sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I get why they changed it too.
For story beats, yes, but we're set up an establishment of rules, and this is something that always drives me crazy when we talk about shows with zombies or anything, whether it's zombie shows, any sort of fantasy show, professional wrestling. As long as rules are established, you have to work within the confines of those rules. So when people are but it's a show about zombies, it's dude, okay, but still you've established the rules. There's still regular people in this world, and this is what regular people would do. That's why I had a little bit of the problem with her just standing in the open field after the lid drops, because you're showing me that she's the smartest character that we have right now, of the two protagonists, and she does something not smart. So I would like a little more consistency with that going forward, but again, it's very nitpicky at this point in time. It could turn into something bigger, would be the only concern.
They do the sex. They consummate their coupling, and Ellie, like she said, is going to be a dad. It affirms that the two of them going forward, it leaves, despite being the birth dad, it leaves Jesse kind of behind in the wind, and we get the confirmation that Ellie and Dina are going to be working to be together going forward as they're trying to get their revenge on Abby. And it takes us to the conclusion of the episode. I'm very curious. I can't speculate too much on things just because I've seen the season, but I'm curious to know what you guys think, where you guys think we go from here. If you have any theories that you feel are gaining some steam or are turning in another direction now that we are almost halfway through the series, and just overall thoughts on episode 4, Sean.
I think next episode, there's a certain Shimmer moment, because I'm guessing Shimmer is still at the music shop. I think there is a certain Shimmer moment might happen next week, which leads to a certain Manny moment, which then leads to a certain Nora moment, which I think that might be next episode. If I had to guess, I don't know. Just if I had to guess, that's where I would put that to see how they're moving the story forward. But again, very interested to see if we get more Seraphites, if we get more WLF, if we get a mention or even a visual of Abby. I kind of like how it's like drop this bomb with Abby and then just nowhere to be seen, which is also very much like the game. It's like a big cat and mouse game with that. The search for Abby is a big thing, obviously. So I'm just excited for more of Seattle. But yeah, episode 4, and even more talking about it, the more I kind of have had more appreciation for it. Like it really was a solid episode. It's kind of like I don't know what to call it, like a bridge episode. You know, it's like the major thing happened in the beginning of the season, and it's leading to the thing that's happening at the end of the season. And this was just like a good kind of setting the stage for Seattle, I guess. Showing how massive it is, showing really what they're up against in a way, hearing the radio of Nora and the little map thing. Obviously, that's a big part of the game, done in a different way. But again, to add to what you guys have said, Dina in this series she does help out sometimes in the game, but I guess in the game she feels more of like in the way. But in this, she's like the voice of reason. You know, every time Ellie's like, let's go do this, she's like, hey, here's the logical reasoning. And she goes, you're right, we should go about it this way. And I did like the ending moment was nice with them holding hands, saying like, hey, we're gonna do this together, even though Ellie's like, you're pregnant, you shouldn't be on this death hunt with me. But you know, when you want to do something, you're going to do something. And it seemed like she was pretty certain that she was, or maybe not. I don't know. I guess I'm up in the air if she knew she was pregnant before she left, or if she really, because she talks about how she's like, I thought something might have been up when she puked, which is when all of our game player radars went off. And we're like, oh, there it is. But I'm pretty sure in the game she knows as she leaves. But I don't know. I'm not so sure if the series version knows or knew. Maybe she had an idea, but seemed like maybe not. So
I think she has a comment where she was like, I knew I was a little late, but that was normal. And It wasn't until I took these 412 tests that I knew for certain.
That was
Rob,
really funny.
You. Any theories and final thoughts on the episode?
I think that at the end of the season, upon a rewatch, this might end up being people's favorite I haven't watched the whole season, by the way, so I don't know what comes after this. But I think just with this episode going forward, this could, upon a rewatch, be people's favorite episode, because I think a lot of things get established in this episode. Isaac, for one, is clearly, I think, again, the interrogation scene is one of my favorite scenes in the entire series at the moment. But also, I think this is, people might not realize it now, but people might turn on Ellie a little bit starting with this episode. And I say that because she gets what she wants in terms of love. She finds out that the person that she loves her, wants to be with her. They're going to have a family. And she's still theoretically going through with this selfish act and putting the person that she loves and the unborn child in grave danger. Because if she says, let's go home, Dina's not going to say, screw that, we're here to do something. She's going to say, okay, just based on the interactions that they've had, she'll turn around with her. But Ellie is being incredibly selfish in this moment. And I think that it might start to turn, like, I don't think people are turning on her yet, but I think that upon reflection, people might start to be like, this isn't really what a protagonist or a hero of a story should do. And that's not what The Last of Us is to begin with, but it is an incredibly selfish act, harking back to Joel committing an incredibly selfish act. So it is showing the similar strides, and she's sort of pissed at Joel for being an incredibly selfish person. And now she's doing the same thing. So does she really need the redemption? And that's what I think this episode sort of, if you go back after whatever comes next, this is a key point in the story going forward.
I think you hit the nail on the head. And I agree with Carlos. I don't think the audience is going to turn on Ellie at all, but I think they're doing such a great job of showing that hypocrisy of you're doing the same thing. It's not the same reason, but you're doing the same thing. You're picking your needs, your wants, your feelings over the need of the greater good, which is exactly what you were upset at Joel for doing, because you wanted to be a part of the greater good. And right now you have another one of those chances. It's just presenting itself in a very different way and not taking it. So I think that is.
You didn't have time to turn on Joel. You didn't have time. You really didn't, for the most part. Right. So, I mean, that's the other thing. So you're going to spend a little more time with Ellie, I think, going forward. And you're going to have to start really thinking through the story a bit more.
I think
episodes. Sorry, Sean.
I'm sorry. Yeah, once she gets to a certain point in this revenge tour she's starting, I think some people will kind of be like, I don't know if you should have done that. That's really messed up. And I think the way Ellie is likely going to react to it, like she reacts to it in the game, I think will also enforce that feeling of being like, oh, wow, that's a line you probably should not have crossed. And I like how they did the distinction in the beginning of they only killed Joel. That's it. They were there to kill Joel. And I think there might be a bigger moment. I know you're talking about how we as an audience know why, but Ellie doesn't know why. And I think that might be, I don't think it'll be as impactful and as surprising as the audience finding out later. But I think that's going to be a big revelation for Ellie. And it's very important for her whole character arc and this whole thing of what you just beautifully said about how there is no heroes in this story. It's just people trying to survive and the things they do to survive and find love and the ends they'll go to defend that love, or find vengeance, or they call justice when it's really just revenge, and the cycle of violence and how awful and terrible it is, and how it really does nothing other than cause more pain in the long run. So I think those few things will help with that. I do think that's the one thing I'm totally with you. I think it's going to be like a hard thing to kind of manage, and I think it'll kind of end up how most game players felt, where it's everyone just kind of understands everyone's point of view at a certain extent. The more I think about it, the more I see more people as a villain than I did before, I guess. I don't want to extrapolate on which side that is, but I'm interested to see how the show handles it too. But it's going to be a very weird line to toe for sure.
3 episodes remaining in season 2. How do you think it's going to end? Let us know on socials at Agents Fandom on TikTok and Twitter, Agents of Fandom everywhere else. When you're hitting the like button on this YouTube video, you can leave a comment. Let us know your thoughts. Just make sure you subscribe on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. Hit that notification bell. And wasn't there one more thing? Subscribe, notification bell, like button. No, I guess that's it. And so you don't miss out on any of our content. We have The Last of Us every Monday. We have Andor breakdowns every single Wednesday. And I'll say this Wednesday, this Tuesday, tomorrow's episode, 3 episodes of Andor, by far my favorite arc of season 2. Just 3 banger episodes back to back to back. So stay tuned. We'll be breaking that down Wednesday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern time. And then on Thursday morning, you have the Comic Corner. Plus, if you're interested in Andor, we have our Andor interviews with Denise Gow, Kyle Solard, Genevieve O'Reilly, and Stellan Skarsgård. That's Dedra Miro, Cyril Karn, Mon Mothma, and Luthen Rael. And then, of course, you can find Sean's Thunderbolts interview with director Jake Schreier up on our YouTube page, wherever you get your pods, as well as my interview with Julia Louis-Dreyfus. So check that out up on the YouTube page. Sean, any fun articles coming? Where can people find you on socials?
You can find me on socials at Metalcore Nerds. Go to metalcorenerds.com. We got a new episode dropping tomorrow talking about the first 3 episodes of Andor. And then we got some cool ones coming up. Talk about like favorite shows of the year so far with this really cool metalcore band Thornhill that I'm recording tomorrow and will come out in a few weeks. And yeah, I got some Last of Us stuff in the works. Hopefully some Andor articles in the works at collider.com. And of course, like I mentioned before, there's a couple cool Thunderbolts articles on agentsofandom.com and my review of The Walking Dead City season 2. I know I'm a pretty positive guy most of the time, but if you want to see me critique something pretty harshly, I don't think harshly, I think fairly, read that article.
Before you get out of
whenever I have, what were you saying?
Sorry, you go.
No, you go.
I was just gonna say before we get out of here, I got to make sure I point out Bex has commented at the beginning of the episode. She wants you to check out the band called Sunroom. So that's your homework for this week is check out Sunroom and report back next week when we're covering The Last of Us episode 5. Rob, where can the people find you on socials and what's coming up on Hometown Ghost Stories?
For me personally, it's at King Coakley, but more importantly, go to Hometown Ghost Stories on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. We are live every Tuesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern. Tomorrow night, we are covering a haunted, abandoned amusement park. So if that's something that you're interested in,
hopefully no clowns.
Well, just me. So, so come hang out in the chat or listen to it on Wednesday when it comes out on all the podcast platforms. And you'll hear TJ on there soon enough doing a movie review. I think I know which one, and we'll sort that out. But come check us out if you like ghost stories, and if you like football stuff. I'm at Spike Week on everything. We do a lot of best ball stuff, so there's that as well.
For those who don't know, best ball, it's like you draft an NFL team for fantasy that it stays throughout the entire year. You're not making moves. You're not making adjustments. You just get to draft it and it's all set. But I will say Rob's work over at Spike Week and our friend Eric Bimefor, who is over there as well. It's not only great stuff for best ball, but if you're just a season-long fantasy football player, you're not doing the daily fantasy stuff like I'm doing all the time. You're just in a league with your friends and you want to know who to draft and what order you should draft guys in. Absolutely phenomenal tools for that as well. So make sure you go check that out over at Spike Week. Thank you so much for tuning in, everyone. We will see you back Wednesday for Andor, Thursday for Comic Corner, and next week again for The Last of Us. Thank you so much for tuning in. I guess I just said that, so I don't need to say it twice, but I'm extra thankful for you guys this week. See you next time. Peace.